A nurse is holding the hand of a dying millionaire in his final moments. The hospital room was dim, the faint hum of machines filling the silence. A thin man lay on the bed, his breath shallow, his skin pale against the crisp white sheets. His eyes flickered open, searching the room as if he was looking for something. No, for someone. Beside him stood a young woman, her hands trembling as she reached out to hold his. She wasn't family. She wasn't even a close friend. She was simply the nurse assigned to his case, yet in that moment, she was the only one he trusted. He squeezed her hand weakly, his lips parting as if to speak. His voice was nothing more than a broken whisper, but she leaned close enough to catch it. The words were so faint, so fragile, that she wondered if she had imagined them. But no, the weight of what he said sank deep into her chest, a burden she never expected to carry. He asked her for something, a final request, a promise. And though her throat tightened and her heart pounded, she gave a small nod. Not with words, not out loud, but silently. A promise made in silence is sometimes heavier than 1,000 vows spoken aloud. She felt it seal her fate in that very room. Moments later, the machine stuttered, the long, piercing tone filling the air. Doctors rushed in, but it was too late. The man was gone. Just like that, his fortune, his legacy, his secrets, all silenced with him. And the only person left holding his last request was the young woman who had no idea how deeply her life was about to change. She stood frozen, his lifeless hand still in hers, tears stinging her eyes. She didn't know why she cried. She wasn't his daughter. She wasn't his lover. She wasn't even supposed to care. But she did. Because in his eyes, in those final seconds, she had seen desperation, fear, and something else, hope. A dying man had placed his final hope in her. The room cleared. Nurses whispered outside the door. His body was covered. But she remained, staring at the sheet that now hid his face. Her chest tightened as the memory of his whisper replayed over and over. "Promise me." He had said it with such force, such urgency, that she couldn't forget it even if she wanted to. She didn't even know his full story. Only fragments she had overheard from other staff. He was wealthy, powerful, a man who built empires and crushed enemies. But in the end, he died like everyone else, alone, terrified, clinging to a stranger's hand. When she finally stepped out of the room, something felt different. People looked at her with a mix of pity and curiosity. They all knew he had spoken to her in his final moments. They wanted to know what he said. But she said nothing. Her lips were sealed. It wasn't their secret. It was hers. Walking down the hallway, her mind buzzed. What had she just agreed to? She didn't even understand the full meaning of his words. All she knew was that her life could no longer remain ordinary. That silent promise tethered her to a man who no longer breathed, and yet somehow, she felt him pulling her deeper into his world even after death. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face. His frail fingers clutching hers, his desperate eyes searching hers. She could almost feel his breath on her ear as he whispered. The city outside her window seemed different, darker, as though shadows themselves were watching her, waiting for her to act on the vow she had given. Days passed. The hospital was quiet again. His death made the news. Billionaire industrialist passes away after long illness. Articles spoke of his empire, his fortune, and his estranged family. But none of them spoke of the secret. None of them knew the promise. And still, she said nothing. But then things began to happen. One evening, as she left the hospital, a black car slowed beside her. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a man in a suit. His eyes were sharp, cold, and assessing. "Miss," he said firmly, "you were with him when he passed. We need to talk." Her stomach tightened. She took a step back, but the man's gaze pinned her in place. How did he know? How did he know she was the one? She tried to brush him off, but the man insisted, his voice low and threatening. "You don't understand, do you? He said something to you. And whatever it was, people are willing to do anything to know it." Her breath caught. Fear crawled up her spine. She shook her head quickly. He didn't say anything. But even as the words left her lips, she knew they were a lie. The man narrowed his eyes, as if reading her thoughts. "Be careful," he warned. Then the car pulled away, leaving her standing in the dark street, her heart pounding out of her chest. That was the moment she realized this wasn't just a dying man's last words. This was something bigger, something dangerous. That silent promise she had given wasn't just a private matter of honor. It was a key to secrets others would kill for. When she returned home that night, she stared into the mirror, barely recognizing the reflection. Her face looked haunted, her eyes tired, but deep inside, she felt something burning. Courage. She whispered to herself, "I promised him, and I will not break it." She didn't yet know what dangers awaited. She didn't know what truths were buried beneath his empire. But she knew one thing. Her life had crossed a line, and there was no turning back. For the first time in years, she felt alive, not as a nurse following routines, but as a woman carrying the final wish of a man whose shadow still lingered over the city. And though fear clawed at her chest, so did determination. She had made a silent promise to a dying man, and that promise was about to cost her everything. The following days blurred into a haze of questions she couldn't silence. Every corner of the hospital whispered his name. Every passing headline carried his face. To the world, he was gone. To her, he was still here, alive in the weight of his final words. A promise she couldn't escape. But the silence around her didn't last. One evening, as she walked home from her shift, she found an envelope slipped under her apartment door. No address, no sender, only her name written in bold strokes. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. 5 words. That was all it said. Keep the promise or run. Her knees went weak. She stumbled back against the wall, clutching the paper as if it burned her skin. How did they know? Who had written this? Fear clawed through her chest, yet underneath it, a strange spark of anger lit. She hadn't even broken the silence. She had told no one. And still, someone was watching her. She tore the paper into pieces, but the words stayed etched into her mind. Keep the promise or run. Run where? And keep what? The man's whisper still haunted her. She had replayed it countless times, but its meaning remained blurred. It wasn't a confession of love. It wasn't a simple request. It was something heavier. Something that tied her to a world she didn't belong in. 2 nights later, she discovered just how real that world was. She was walking through the city's narrow streets, the rain painting the pavement silver under the streetlights, when she felt it, a shadow trailing her steps. Her pulse quickened. She glanced behind her. A man in a dark coat followed at a steady pace. Too steady, too close. Her instincts screamed at her to run. She darted into an alley, her shoes splashing through puddles, her breath ragged. But the footsteps followed, echoing against the brick walls. Wait! The voice boomed behind her. She froze for a split second before spinning around, her back against the wall. The man approached slowly, his hands raised as though he meant no harm. His face was older, lined with experience, but his eyes, sharp, relentless, never left hers. "You don't know me," he said, his voice low but firm. "But I knew him." Her throat tightened. She said nothing. "You were with him at the end. He trusted you." His words carried weight, as if they were both a statement and an accusation. "Whatever he asked of you, it's more dangerous than you realize. You're in the middle of something that can break you if you're not careful." She swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" "Not what I want," the man said quietly. "What they want. And they won't stop until they get it." Her chest heaved as the rain drummed around them. She tried to read his face, tried to see if he was a threat or a warning. But his eyes softened just slightly. "Be careful who you trust. Because the ones closest to him, they're the ones who'll come for you first." Then, just like that, he turned and vanished into the storm, leaving her drenched, shaking, and utterly alone. That night, she barely slept. Every sound outside her window felt like footsteps approaching. Every creak of her apartment reminded her that she was being watched. She gripped the locket around her neck, a small silver piece her mother had given her years ago, as if it could shield her from what was coming. But nothing could protect her from the truth. The next day, she returned to the hospital, hoping for normalcy. But instead of comfort, she found chaos. A woman stood in the lobby, tall, poised, with grief etched on her flawless face. She was surrounded by lawyers and reporters, her presence commanding attention. Everyone whispered her name, the daughter of the dying man, the heiress to his fortune. And when her gaze swept across the room, it landed on the nurse. For a moment, their eyes locked. The daughter's expression hardened, her lips curving into a cold smile. She walked straight toward her, heels clicking against the marble floor. "You," the daughter said sharply, her voice a dagger cloaked in velvet. "You were with my father when he died." The nurse's heart thundered. She managed a small nod. "What did he say to you?" The daughter's tone was sweet on the surface, but laced with steel. The nurse's lips trembled. He didn't say anything important." The daughter studied her for a long moment, as if peeling away layers of her soul. Then, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, she leaned closer and whispered, "Careful, dear. Lies can cost more than truth." Then she walked away, leaving the nurse standing frozen in the center of the hospital, her secret burning hotter than ever. It became clear then, this wasn't just about loyalty. This was about survival. The daughter wanted answers. The strangers in the cars wanted answers. And somewhere, hidden beneath layers of wealth, lies, and power, was the truth of what that dying man had entrusted to her. As the day faded into night, she sat alone in her apartment, the city lights flickering outside. She pulled out a small notebook and began to write, her hand trembling as she etched the words she had heard. The exact words he whispered. She wrote them over and over again, as if repetition would reveal their meaning. But no matter how many times she read them, the words felt like a puzzle. A key without a lock. Her chest ached. Her mind raced. And yet, somewhere deep inside, she felt an unshakable resolve. She had promised him. She had given him her silence. And even if the world turned against her, even if danger closed in on all sides, she would not break that vow. What she didn't know was that her promise had already set events into motion, events that would tear apart families, uncover buried betrayals, and force her to choose between her own safety and a truth that could shatter everything. And as she stared at the city beyond her window, she realized something chilling. The dying man may have left this world, but his shadow was still here, still alive, and it was reaching for her. The days that followed were nothing short of a storm. Everywhere she went, eyes followed her. Strangers lingered in corners too long, cars slowed as she crossed the street, and phone calls came with nothing but silence on the other end. The dying man's whisper was no longer just haunting her, it was hunting her. One evening, she returned home to find her door slightly open. Her breath caught. Slowly, she pushed it wider. The apartment was dark, but she could feel it. The air was disturbed. Someone had been here. On the table, where she had left nothing, lay an envelope. This time it wasn't blank. In bold letters, it read, "You can't hide the truth." Her hands shook as she tore it open. Inside was a single photograph. Her heart stopped. It was a picture of her, standing beside the dying man's bed, holding his hand. Someone had been there. Someone had captured his final moment. Tears stung her eyes as she clutched the photo. Who was watching her that night? And why? She barely had time to think before her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. A calm male voice spoke on the other end. "You know what he told you, and you know what it means. Meet me tomorrow night. Pier 17. Come alone." The line went dead. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her. She wanted to run, to vanish, to pretend none of this was real. But she remembered the man's eyes, the desperation in his voice, and the weight of her promise. She couldn't walk away. Not now. The following night, she stood at the edge of the pier, the water black and restless under the moonlight. The city loomed behind her, but here, it felt like another world. A figure emerged from the shadows. It was the same older man she had seen in the alley, the one who warned her. "You came," he said softly, almost surprised. Her voice shook. "I need answers. Please." What did he mean? What did he drag me into? The man sighed, looking out at the water. He was protecting something. Something he didn't trust anyone else with.
Not his family.
Not his partners. Only you, because you had no ties, no history with him. You were the only one he believed wouldn't betray him. She clenched her fists. "But why me? I don't even know him." "You don't have to know someone," the man replied quietly. "Sometimes, it's the strangers who carry the purest promises." Her chest tightened, his words cutting deep. But before she could respond, headlights flashed across the pier. A sleek black car screeched to a halt. Men in suits stepped out, their faces cold and unyielding. And from the back seat, the daughter emerged. Her presence was commanding, her beauty sharp as a blade. She walked toward them slowly, her heels echoing against the wood. "So," she said smoothly, her eyes narrowing at the nurse, "you finally came out of hiding." Fear gripped her, but she stood her ground. The daughter's lips curled into a smirk. "My father trusted you, didn't he? Whispered his secrets to a stranger instead of his own blood. Do you know what that makes you? A threat." The nurse's voice broke. "I made him a promise." "Then break it." The daughter snapped, her eyes flashing. "Tell me what he said." The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. The nurse's heart raced, her mind screaming at her to stay silent. But the daughter stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "If you don't, you won't survive this night." Tears filled her eyes, but she lifted her chin. Her voice was soft, trembling, but unwavering. "I can't. I won't. I promised him." For a moment, the daughter's mask slipped. Anger flared in her eyes, but beneath it, a glimmer of pain flickered. "Do you even know what you're holding?" she whispered bitterly. "Do you even understand? He gave you what should have been mine." The air grew colder. The men behind her shifted, ready to move. But before anything could happen, the older man, the one who had brought her here, stepped forward. His voice rang with authority. "Enough. She owes you nothing. He chose her. Accept it." Chaos erupted. The daughter shouted, her men advanced, and in the struggle, the nurse found herself running, her breath ragged, tears streaming down her face. She didn't stop until her legs gave out, collapsing against the damp cobblestones of the city streets. And there, in the silence of the night, the truth hit her with devastating clarity. The man hadn't left her with riches, or documents, or power. His final whisper was something far greater. Not a possession, not a secret, but a responsibility. He had told her to protect someone. A name she had barely caught in his fading breath. A name that was not his daughter's. A child, hidden, unknown, forgotten by the world. His real heir. Her tears spilled freely as the pieces fell into place. The enemies, the threats, the desperate search, they weren't after her. They were after the child. And the only thing standing in their way was her silent promise. She pressed a trembling hand to her heart. The fear was still there, but it was joined by something stronger, resolve. She wasn't just carrying a dying man's secret anymore. She was carrying a life, a future. The city stretched endlessly before her, filled with danger and darkness, but also hope. She whispered into the night, her voice breaking, "I promised you, and I will keep it, no matter the cost." The nurse rose to her feet, her shadow long against the streetlight. She was no longer just a woman caught in another man's story. She was the guardian of his last wish, the shield of a child who didn't even know she existed. And as the wind howled through the empty streets, she felt it. The dying man's presence, his faith in her, his hope living on through her. She wasn't alone. She had a promise to keep, and that promise would become her destiny.